Huge clock news today, everyone, coming out of the World Championships. There's been an announcement on the World Cube Association forum this morning. And it has been posted by Carter Kukala from the WCA Regs Committee. You know what I'd like to say? Before we actually get into this is I would like for everyone, before anything happens, today in this stream, before anyone says anything, let's remember that there are real people affected by this, okay? Anthony Stojek and Brendan Dunnigan, who we're going to hear about, and also Carter Kukala and the rest of the Regs Committee as well, who are in a terrible position here. You can have opinions about whether they've made the right decision or a fair decision or all that kind of stuff, but just remember that they are human beings at the end of the day, doing their best in a difficult position. So let's be chill, let's be cool, be nice to people, don't rage out at people. You can rage out at the situation, but don't rage out at people, all right? Just be cool. Does that make sense? Is that enough? Have I brought enough dad energy to this situation already before we've even read a word? I hope so. Thank you to Canyon Petit, who was streaming this morning. I was up at a stupid o'clock working on an order, watching Canyon stream and just yapping away. And that was good. So let's have a look at the announcement from Carter here 6 hours ago. God, jeez. Carter, honestly, the day after I stream and while I'm asleep, are they avoiding me? No, surely they're not, because why would they be? Okay, dear WCA community, we would like to inform the community about some changes of results in the Rubik's WCA World Championship 2025. It was discovered that 2 of the competitors on the clock podium received a miss scramble in their average. According to Carter, the relevant regulations, or according to the committee, the relevant regulations for this scenario can be seen below. 1-1I1. 10. In the following cases, an extra attempt must be granted to replace the affected attempt. If no extra attempt is granted, the result will be considered DNS. And that is the entirety of that reg. This comes from 11I. If it is found that a competitor's puzzle was not scrambled correctly after they have completed their solve, the following regulations apply. The other one is 11I1C, number 9. The result is achieved in a final round of a national championship, continental championship, or world championship. Well, let's have a wee peek at that one. Because this is coming under, if it's found that competitor's puzzle was not scrambled correctly after they have completed their solve, the following regs apply. Competitors expected to meet these criteria should have the scrambles checked by a second scrambler before being sent out, obviously. And, so this is a recommendation that competitors expected to meet these criteria should have the scrambles checked by a second scrambler before being sent out. We might come back and look at that again. So it's essentially saying because this was a final round of a national championship, continental championship, or world championship, there was a second check on the scramble, which makes sense. And we are gonna come back to that. Okay. So as these results were achieved in the final of a world championship, the relevant attempts must be changed to DNS. Brutal. Anthony Stojek attempt 2, Brendan Dunnigan attempt 5. Remember now, of course, that Anthony Stojek originally was the world champion at the championships. As a result of this change, Anthony Stojek previously first moves to 3rd place, and Volodymyr Kapuscianski, previously 3rd, is now the world champion. Volo's got to be feeling pretty weird about that. Like, Anthony's got to be absolutely devastated. Bendy's got to be feeling a little bit like, huh? And Volo's got to be feeling just kind of awkward, you know? We understand that this is a strict outcome as miss scrambles are not the fault of the competitor. Do you understand that, given the next sentence? However, we must make decisions in line with the WCA regulations, which are written to remove any subjectivity when determining the legitimacy of high-level results. In line with the recommendation in Regulation 11I1+, all scrambles in the clock final were double-checked by a second scrambler before being sent out to competitors. It is likely that these misscrambles occurred in transit to the station rather than the error occurred to the scrambling process. Now, I am going to stick my little oar in here, and I'm going to go, and this is something that I spoke with Canyon on his stream about. You notice this wording here? It is likely that these misscrambles occurred in transit, right? We're assuming that the scrambles changed in transit. The reason I say that is because even though the WCA says 2 people check the scramble, there is actually no tangible proof that the scramble was correct. I'm not saying that I suspect I'm being completely transparent here in what I'm saying. Listen very carefully to the words that I'm saying. We have word from the WCA and the scramblers that the scrambles were correct and that the double checker checked the scramble and it was correct. We have to take them at their word for that. There is actually no literal, tangible proof that they were correct. There's no way we can check that. And I think that's potentially where a possible solution lies. And it's a kind of 2-part solution, I suppose. What's up, Lockie? Welcome along. So that's my little oar that I'm going to stick in there. This is careful language. It is likely that these misscrambles occurred in transit to the station. They cannot say for sure because we do not have definitive proof that the scrambles were correct. Just the word of 2 people. I'm not saying that their word is wrong or whatever. It's likely that these misscrambles occurred in transit to the station rather than the error occurring during the scrambling process. I would agree. I do agree with that statement. It is more likely that this was a transit issue, and I think it probably was. But my statement still stands that there's no conclusive proof. We are taking 2 people at their word for this first part here. Competitors in the clock final were able to check their scrambles at data entry after the final throughout the competition. This is one that's going to be pushed back on when we look in the comments. In addition to ensuring that scrambles are double-checked to prevent any misscrambles before they are sent out, we strongly encourage future organisation teams to offer the same opportunity, and we strongly encourage competitors to make use of this opportunity when available. I cannot help but take a bit of issue with that because there is no regulation. There is no regulation that says checking a scramble is any part of a competitor's responsibility. That is not in the regs. Let me catch up with chat here. Alex, I personally feel it's 99% in transport or after they checked. It is when the misscramble or misalignment happened. It doesn't make sense for 2 people to mess up in World's final with that. I don't disagree with you. I totally disagree, and I hear that. But it is still you don't change the word, you don't change the fact that we are still taking people at their word. So what I'm thinking, I spoke to Alex in DMs earlier and I said, ban the scramblers for a year. Scramblers need to be banned. We need video, and there's more to that though. And I don't know if I'm serious about this or not yet, but I think what may be a solution would be to have, at like Worlds and big championships, have a camera on the scramble station. You know? Then we will have tangible proof that a puzzle went into a cover perfectly, correctly scrambled. And I'm not finished. Let me finish. Now, that puzzle is being transported and delivered to the competitor. Any change to that puzzled, scrambled state at that point needs to be recognized as an accident, or like uncontrollable, out of control, or like in insurance terms, it would be an act of God, right? They call that an act of God in insurance terms. I think we have to potentially accept the fact that it is a possibility that a misscramble by one move can occur in transit. I think maybe we have to accept that. And then in this, so let's say those steps have been followed in this situation. We're then told, oh, miss scramble. We see the video for the scramblers. The cube goes into the cover scrambled and it's delivered to the competitor, one tick off. There is literally nothing anyone can do about that. And I think maybe a solution is to is to have that. And Alex, I'm not talking about streaming the scramblers because that would be a giant issue. Just record it for cases like this. That because whatever steps have been taken in the past, and we had a competition in New Zealand where we lost a couple of events in a competition because of poor scrambling, and I was raging. I was just like, you have to. How do we make scramblers understand? And I'm not blaming scramblers here because I don't think it was scrambler. I think it was genuinely in transit, right? But how do you make scramblers understand that their job is important, that their checks are important? How do we make them understand that? Currently, we're penalizing competitors for missed scrambles, which I think is so grotesquely unfair and so counter to WCA, the spirit, the mission of the WCA, fair and equal conditions. I don't see how you can argue that this is a fair outcome for the competitors. And I'm not having a go here because I think that Carter and the regs committee have done their best given the regs as written. I think they have done their best with the regs. But unfortunately, this is a systems error as far as I'm concerned. This is a crappy system. This is a demonstrably bad, broken system. You know? So I think there's room for improvement here, and I think there's massive lessons to be learned here. I will reiterate again, this is an awful situation for everyone involved, including the regulations committee, who've had to make a very, very difficult decision. They're not stupid. They know, or they knew before they made the announcement, that this was going to get backlash. Apparently, CF is kicking off, so I've been told. But let's have a look at some comments, because there's some quite good stuff in here, eh? Let's go from the top here. Glad to see the regulations standing tall, even if the scrambles couldn't. Would it be possible to explain how much the scramble differed from the original scrambles? So this is explained further down, just a tick or two. Harry's kicking off here. So great that the regulations get upheld, so the person who won the world championship loses their result through something they can't do anything about, and which may not have given them any advantage at all. This is where the unfairness and the feelings of injustice are coming from, is that part of it. The competitors could not do anything about this, although the regulations committee will argue that they could have checked their scrambles. They were getting rushed off for interviews and everything after the thing finished, and as we'll read further down, this was not actually available for every event. And it is not, in my opinion, my humble boomer opinion, it is not the competitor's responsibility. So think about a game of rugby. Is it the player's responsibility to ask for the video ref? No, it's the referee's responsibility to ask for that. He's like the delegate of that in this situation. Ridiculous that it should be a competitor's responsibility, in my opinion. What's the point in going to a world championship if you win and a month later they say, oops, gave the wrong scramble and didn't tell you, and there's nothing you could do about it, so now you lose. Hope you enjoyed flying across the world for nothing. This is an absolute joke, and if it doesn't get overturned, it completely undermines the integrity of the WCA, and I doubt we'll see any more top solvers at Worlds 2027. All right, settle down, Harry. I think people are still going to turn up to Worlds in 27. It needs a systems review. It needs a massive systems review. It doesn't need everyone to lose their minds. Just going to catch up with chat. Vera, this reminds me of when Elias had to do an extra for a good Pyrosolve because someone turned a tip, making it harder while transporting the cube. Yeah. We'll come to that as we get down. Canyon, it's not that the scramblers were at fault or disregarded integrity. This is a separate issue entirely. I agree. I think this is a systems issue. Lockstock, yes, but unfortunately, if it was me, I wouldn't want to hold a record. While I know that I may have had an advantage over my competition, although it seems unfair, realistically, it has to be objective. In the UK, we try very hard to be diligent with scrambles. Something defo happened in transport at our champs, at least. Yeah, I heard there was some drama at the UK champs. I don't, unfortunately, have the context because I have a malfunctioning short-term memory, or just long-term memory, just memory in general. I can't recall situations where this has happened before, but I believe there's been similar situations. Canyon, competitors in an ideal world, Canyon, competitors should not need to check their own scrambles. You're absolutely right. And that's kind of the crux of what I'm talking about. If we had a good system, if we had a better system, then competitors shouldn't need to check their scrambles. They shouldn't even be worrying about, oh my God, I hope that wasn't a miss scramble. Oh my gosh, I hope that wasn't a miss scramble. Okay, let's keep going. Jules, although I'm also happy to see the regs being upheld, I hope this incident will help demonstrate the miss scrambles are a natural part of cubing, as is wind or weather in an outdoor sports. Oh, I saw you reading this one, Canyon. That's an interesting take, hey, but I like it. So maybe this regulation should be updated in the future to allow most or all one move off miss scrambles. I mean, there's precedent for that in 6x6, 7x7 and Megamix, right? They don't actually have to be right, those scrambles, unless I've missed an update. The result Anthony and Brendan achieved on such scramble were very likely much more close to what they would have gotten on the original scramble compared to the only two current legal outcomes. So it's a bit absurd that the fairest solution is the only one that cannot happen. Allowing a one move off scrambles would actually be fairer altogether, especially in such finals where miss scrambles are likely to happen during transit and therefore literally unavoidable, except in square one, maybe with 3D covers. It would be nice. I mean, an ideal outcome would have a blanket rule. Scott, keeping it short, UK podium was changed because someone honestly called out they had a miss scramble, took them off the podium. Oof. I mean, yeah, you got to take that one for the team if you know it is. Noah swore had an incident with a mixed scramble in 3 blind. Max 644 is the earliest Canyon can remember. Okay, so Noah, going to try and keep this short and professional. My opinion is separate and not representative. Oh, Noah's on the WIC. Hoo-hoo. Okay, juice. Going to try and keep this short and professional, not representative of WIC, but an active decision should be made as to whether or not ensuring correct scrambles is solely the competitor's responsibility or not. Oh, it can't be. And Noah's right. Noah's got to the crux of it here. This is actually unclear, isn't it? Anthony is being punished here for not ensuring his own scrambles were correct. In my opinion, unacceptable. We shouldn't punish someone for something they're not responsible for. Facts. If WRC is going to maintain that miss-scramble regulations are written to remove subjectivity when determining the legitimacy of high-level results, then the most moral thing we can do is scare every competitor at every championship into checking their own scrambles. It's clear this will keep happening, so we need to be proactive about this. It's just going to slow down competitions. That's not going to work. And I can just put myself in the position of like scramblers and data entry people. Are you going to go and bug the data entry guy about, oh, this might have been a miss scramble. Can I check it? At Worlds? Is that realistic? Like, really? Is that realistic? Chris Bonello, cubing is at its best when the luck factor is as low as possible, and sadly it doesn't get much more unbalanced than this. As the regulations stand, it's the runners and judges who are unintentionally the deciding factor for whether a competitor is lucky enough to be entitled to all 5 solves or unlucky enough to be entitled to only 4, with their worst one counting. Facts, Chris. Whatever the best solution is to the miss-scrambling and transit problem, it's not this. Especially with the consequences not being known to the competitors until everyone's flown home. I imagine that the competitors were emailed in advance. Here we go. So Carter originally said all competitors in final rounds were given the opportunity to check the scrambles after the conclusion of the round. Christopher Chi, I'm sure you don't mean it this way, but to me this comes across as blaming the competitor for not checking scrambles when it shouldn't be their responsibility or obligation to do so. Facts. Are we victim blaming? Is this what we're doing? Is this what we're doing now in cubing in 2025? Are we victim blaming world championships for having had missed scrambles sent to them? Is that what we're doing? I got ice in my mouth. The fact that there were 2 known missed scrambles out of 100 clock solves in a round with dedicated scramble checkers is very concerning. It is. I feel this should indicate the changes needed going forward. I couldn't not agree more. It should not be the responsibility of the competitor to check their scrambles. I agree. I can't disagree with that. Anders just kicking off. Why the hell? Can the WCA never learn from his previous mistakes? Why the hell do we keep having missed scrambles in these big finals? I don't disagree with you, Anders. You're coming in a bit hot here. I agree. Systems. Look at our systems, please. Look at our systems, please. I'm seeing other people saying they're happy the regulations are being upheld. I personally am not. I think the regs are so clearly creating a situation that's unfair and undermines the entirety of the WCA and competitive cubing, then the relevant WCA team should be able to find a better solution if it means overturning a pre-existing regulation. Removing the subjectivity of whether a top result is fair or not is better if the solution is making it objectively unfair. Eli, this is an unfair outcome. I wanted to get to... Yeah, so Zachary's clapping back here at Anders, and let's not make assumptions about whose fault it was, please. I get this is a sensitive situation, but let's not take your anger out on people. Facts. Amen. Anders just kicking off, generally speaking. Here we go. So here's Alexandra Stojic, who I'm gonna assume, and one should never, but I'm gonna assume this is Anthony's mum. We're talking about the World Championship. This happened last year as well. There is no such point in the regulations that you can check your scrambles. Yep, true. There's no reg. No one gave my son Anthony an opportunity to check it after the finals. After Square 1 finals, competitors asked to check the scrambles and they refused to let them. That's a problem. This is not a good system. The system that was in place has failed because it had too many potential points of failure. Data entry people can get overwhelmed. Delegates can get overwhelmed. Communicating it properly to the competitors as to which rounds they can question scrambles in and why. I mean, so here's my problem with this checking scramble thing. Which scramble do you check? If you're the competitor, you've got the chance to check your scrambles. Okay, which ones do you check out of your average of 5? If I was in Anthony's position and I was told, okay, you need to check your scrambles, well, then it's like, okay, well, I have to check them all then. Meaning everyone in the round is going to have all of their scrambles checked by their video after the fact. How can you... how is that manageable? How is that possible? Not necessarily with video. I realize that people have better memories than me and people can go up and say, oh, that was my scramble or that wasn't my scramble. But also that's not fair either, because that then puts the competitor... If a competitor could go up and genuinely be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was my scramble. I wouldn't know. I would have no idea. They go, yeah, I'm pretty sure that is. And then video could come out later and then that competitor can be like pinged for being a cheat. Why? I don't like that either. That's opening competitors up to like really sketchy, really, really vulnerable stuff there. That's not ideal. Ivo, hello. Ivo, I think this proves we need a new precedent for these situations since the outcome cannot be considered fair to the competitors after all the effort they put in to perform at the World's Finals. When you are, this is, again, moving on from the scramble checking thing. If you're at Worlds, you're not thinking about, oh, I hope the scrambler does his job right. You assume you should have you are entitled to presume that the scrambler is doing their job right. In my opinion, at Worlds Finals, you are allowed to assume that the scramblers are doing a good job, in my opinion. And the WCA needs systems to ensure that the scramblers are doing a good job. The current system is no bueno. It's not working, clearly. Oh, look, it's Alex Mess. I think refusing to let competitors check their scrambles when their solves can be disqualified under 11I1 is ridiculous, and you're absolutely right to be upset about that part. I think the regulations should have a part that guarantees people who can be disqualified for missed scrambles under 11I1 have the right to check for their missed scrambles. Yeah, maybe that might be a busted reg. Don't know. How would you feel if, this is Alexandra again, how would you feel if someone took your title and you haven't done anything wrong? It was just an accidental mistake. It's so unfair. Feel bad for Anthony. There's one, here we go. I want to shout out this fella here, Mick. I was about to congratulate you on your name, but now I won't. Mick Bokema. So they have provided the original scramble and the miss scramble. I'm going to have to assume this is correct. But looking at the stats for both solves, the miss scramble was a 13 mover, 45 ticks. The correct scramble was a 12 mover, 46 ticks. So the scramble, in Mick's opinion, was harder than the one he was supposed to get, because the 1 tick miss scramble caused an extra move in his solution. Alex, you told Mick to post it. The situation is stinky. So he actually performed extra good. He actually performed extra good and has been taken off first and has had world championship title taken off him. You can go and you can read all of this stuff on the WCA forum. I'm going to post it and pin it in the chat. And you can all go and read that. I'm going to pin it. Go away. I don't want to give myself hearts. I want to pin the thing. Pin. So it's a stinky situation, and I feel bad for literally everyone involved. I feel really bad for the Dregs committee, because they've got an awful situation on their hands. I feel bad for the world's organizing people and the delegates that were involved there. Because that's a lot as well. There was a lot of responsibility there for those people. To summarize my reckons, and my reckons are worth just nothing, you know what I mean? But I'm just freestyling. I feel like a camera on the scrambles will give the WCA the opportunity to say definitively 100% whether a scramble has been moved in transit. Right? I feel like that's fairly easy, so that situations like this can be easier investigated. And I also feel like I think we need it coded somewhere to say we acknowledge that scramble states can change in transit, and that is out of anyone's control and is certainly not something that a competitor should be penalized for. I think that's where I'm at on this. That's I think where I'm at. You know what I mean? Chang, you know what? I tell you what, the WCA could learn some things in systems terms from the health service. You're not wrong. Yeah, I'm seeing people suggest like cameras on the back of displays. We've heard people talk about cameras on every station for like the sliding stuff. That's not realistic, I don't think, in a short term. One fixed camera on a scrambling station, I think, is not that hard to achieve. It's a $20 tripod from Kmart, and it's an old phone plugged into the mains. It's not that hard. I'm not talking about every competition. I'm talking about Worlds. Because I also think that there should be the 2-step check process. Maybe as part of the 2-step check process, we're taking photos or something. Or that's when maybe it's the 2-step check process. That's when it goes under a camera. Like, say you have the sheet down there and the thing. I don't think it's impossible. Ephemica, is it stressful to be a scrambler? I think there's a lot of time pressure on scramblers. And I think that's often what leads to mistakes, because they're about churning them out. You know? But anyway, that's probably all I've got to say about that. We're gonna wait and see what the fallout's gonna be. I saw a message from Canyon. So Canyon's speaking on behalf of Volo here, but Canyon says, Volo says he's not going to say much, but assumes the decision will be overturned. That's bold. Confident. Love that confidence. Alex, I never compromise scramble checking for speed. Scramblers should not ever compromise scramble checking for speed. What I always say to the kids at the Cube Club, like, do it right, don't do it fast. Do it right, then you don't have to do it twice. You know, that's all it is. Alex is now a gun for hire, a scrambling gun for hire.